Hello and welcome to UKEdChat After Hours. I'm Martin. You can find out more about me by going to my Twitter handle at ICTMagic. If you want to find out more about UKEdChat, you can go to the website at UKEdChat.com or follow us on Twitter. So tonight we've just had an interesting chat all about maths and the creative side of maths, which I think that most teachers have some experience of, and this is a live session, so we really want to hear from you. So if you have anything to add, then you can do so on Twitter using the hashtag UKEdChat, or wherever you're watching this, you can also post a comment there. There's also some show notes to go along with this session, so anything we mentioned during this session, we'll try and get all of those links there for you. So without any further ado, I have a special guest. Special guest, can I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good evening. I'm Rachel Cully. I'm the founder of UKEdChat. I work with schools to put policy into practice using creative learning experiences. And I'm particularly passionate about creative learning in maths using real, authentic situations for maths. And the importance of numeracy-rich cultures in school as well. I think that's essential.
Mm-hmm. And where can people find you online if they wish to do so?
I've got a website which is www.UKEdChat.co.uk, and my Twitter handle is Rachel at UKEdChat.
Okay, and that's on the screen for you now, and we'll pop it up a few times throughout the presentation. So, many people have this impression, maths is dull, so prove me wrong. Maths is dull. It's a boring subject, we all get turned off at school about it, so what is it about maths that makes it a really interesting subject for you and everybody else should think so?
Yeah, well, there's a view I come across a lot outside of school and even in schools as well. And I think it stems from people thinking of maths as the formulas that we learn in school, and either that we find difficult or that we forget. But whatever we're doing in life, you don't even think about it when you get up and you're deciding whether there's enough cereal in your cereal packet to have another bowl tomorrow, or whether you should have it all today. That's using math skills, and we don't even think about it because we don't find it difficult. So, mixing your favourite drink, you're using maths, ratio, and things like that. So I think that there's a lot of maths in the world around us that we don't even think of as maths because it's not difficult for us. And everybody will enjoy some aspect of maths. It's just finding what aspect it is that you enjoy. One of my favourite bits of my career so far has been we were doing numerical reasoning trails in a school. They were musical trails, and after an amazing assembly with all the music playing, and the children were really excited to go, and the drummer leader said, "And this group is going to go and do maths with Rachel." So you can imagine their faces because they wanted to play the drums. But at the end of the session, a year 6 boy came up to me and said, "You're right, you can make maths fun." And it was fun because he had been expecting to be sitting down, working out answers to maths. And it was a roll doll trail. So from the minute he walked into the hall, there's all these stations set up with lots of manipulatives out, like so big jars of sweets and things like that. And they were working collaboratively to solve puzzles, and then had to already explain their answers before they were allowed to move on. So they didn't have to, there was no exercise books in sight. So I think often maths is seen as dull because of preconceived ideas of what maths is. And there's actually far more to maths than that.
And the question was asked from a position of love as an A-level mathematician myself. So yes, and I myself from the primary school, I feel like I was very much switched off of maths. But then it got rekindled later on. So I think that's a common story which is heard by many people. So you're going into schools to do these lovely things with the kids and hopefully with the teachers as well. But how do we keep that going? How do we instill an interesting and positive maths culture within a school? So not just that one day workshop or a couple of days workshops, whatever it may be, but how do we continue it for the long term?
Well, a lot of my work is about making your school numeracy rich, and that's looking for the opportunities for maths outside the classroom as well. And a lot of the strategies that you can put in place, it has to be easy for it to become embedded in a school. It has to be something that's easy for teachers to do, and it's easy for it to become part of your natural pedagogy toolbox. So it's just simple things like having a clock in the playground and having a list of questions that school staff know to ask, numeracy buddies know to ask. So it's putting things in place that can be easily continued, because if it's too onerous, it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. But I think if you look at maths as a real opportunity, then you find lots more opportunities for maths if you do it for a real purpose. And also a lot of the strategies that I help teachers put in place, they are really simple, because they're the ones that work the best and that don't take a lot of time.
Absolutely. And obviously simple and to hand. I really like the idea of having that bank of questions that, if it's perhaps location specific, so you say on the playground, you can have a certain type of questions, but I can also imagine that maybe going home or taking that to the supermarket or wherever. So it's really good to be able to put that into a real life situation. So obviously we're moving through the school at different...
One of the things I do...
Go, please,
so I was just going to say, one of the things, an example of the strategy that I do is plug-in Mathsematic, and that's just using images of real-life places and then asking maths questions about it. And there's just so many places you can go with that, having numeracy symbols around the schools. And as you were saying, it then you can bring in parents and the community, because you can have maths questions on the way to school, on the way to assembly. Let's see, what shapes can you find on the way to assembly? Can you find any examples of parallel lines on the way to assembly? It's just about changing the mindset and seeing maths in the world, because there's lots of maths in the world. It's not, just sitting down writing answers to questions.
And I think there is that impression sometimes, the fact that there is just one particular question, one particular answer for a particular question, and there's no creativity within it, where I think actually we're a lot better these days at doing that, maybe in the early years and also at the university level, but maybe there's this grey area in the key stages in the UK where maybe that creativity is maybe put to one side a little bit, and maybe that's something we need to rekindle, and hopefully from what you're doing you can go a bit of a way to helping with that. So we have these ideas in the real world and we have these ideas on paper. How do we connect the two? I know that one of the questions in our Twitter chat just now was about manipulatives. How does that fit into lessons? How can manipulatives be used within the lesson to make the more abstract, more concrete?
Well, lots and lots of ways. One of the projects I'm working on at the moment is something called Digitales for Maths. And that is all about children using manipulatives to show their understanding of maths through a digital story. So they're using stop motion and things like that, using the manipulatives. And obviously, prior to developing your digital stories, the children are going to have to have seen lots of representations beforehand. So to me, manipulatives should be used when you're introducing topics and to help children consolidate it, for them to express their understanding. They should be constantly in use. It was quite interesting. We did a poll earlier on who felt that manipulatives had a place beyond the foundation phase. And it was quite a split response to it so far.
And that poll's ongoing at the moment.
So I think they're extremely important.
So if you're watching this live, you should be able to take part in that poll as well. So it's 24 hours, I believe, after the discussion. So it'll be interesting to see the results of that, and we'll hopefully put that on the show notes for you to look at for the final results. So perhaps as a final question, where do you see maths going particularly in the primary school for the next, shall we say, decade or so? Where do we see this kind of development going when it comes to creativity? How do you see it developing in the future?
Well, certainly in Wales, I know that there's a real emphasis on creativity in the curriculum, and with the new curriculum coming in. So I think it's going to remain a high priority. And it's about the deepening the understanding of the maths. So, making sure that children learn about maths in lots of different ways. For example, if they're learning through physical activity, that will help a lot of children remember it and understand it. And if they're seeing it in lots of different ways, then it can help clear up misconceptions. I'm just thinking of fractions. We're very used to using like cutting up a pizza and things, which is great. But it's also really helpful if they place those fractions on a number line, and that can clear up lots of misconceptions. So yeah, I think it's about the deepening of the understanding and using creative ways to do that. And I think we also said in the Twitter chat, as well as teaching creatively, it's about the children being creative in the maths and not being afraid to explore and try different things.
Mm-hmm. And again, that all comes back to the culture again. So that's really a fascinating full circle we've gone to, which is very appropriate for a maths discussion. Rachel, thank you ever so much for discussing creativity and maths. It's been a fascinating subject, and I know that you took part in our recent UKEdChat conference, so I do urge people to look you up and to find out more about you, and we will have lots of links to all of your things in the show notes. But thank you once again for joining us, and for everybody else, thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you, Martin.